The United States District Court for the Northern District of California was a crucible of tension, its wood-paneled walls reverberating with the weight of a nation grappling with the boundaries of freedom and security. Judge Edward Chen, a 70-year-old jurist with a Harvard law pedigree and a reputation for unyielding fidelity to constitutional precedent, leaned forward, his bespectacled gaze slicing through the packed courtroom. The chamber was a mosaic of anticipation, journalists scribbling in notebooks, legal analysts whispering theories, and political activists exchanging wary glances. At the defendant's table sat Pam Bondi, the 59-year-old United States Attorney General, her navy suit crisp, her blonde hair pulled back tightly, her face a mask of steely composure that belied the storm within. Beside her, Margaret Callahan, a 45-year-old DOJ attorney with a knack for navigating constitutional quagmires, shuffled papers nervously, her brow furrowed with unease. Across the aisle, Nadia Khan, a 40-year-old Electronic Frontier Foundation attorney with a fierce commitment to digital rights, conferred with her team, her dark eyes alight with purpose. The gallery buzzed, smartphones discreetly capturing the moment, pens poised above notebooks. Judge Chen cleared his throat, his voice cutting through the hushed room like a blade. "Counsel," he began, his tone measured but laced with a razor's edge. "We are here to address the plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction against the Department of Justice's Patriot Oversight Program, which has targeted thousands of Americans for surveillance and asset freezes based on their social media activity. Ms. Callahan, your claim that this program is a lawful exercise of national security authority is bold. Let's hear your defense." Margaret Callahan rose, smoothing her blazer, her voice steady but strained under Chen's scrutiny. She argued that the Patriot Oversight Program, launched under Bondi's DOJ, was a necessary response to domestic extremism amplified on platforms like X, citing the Patriot Act's broad provisions to justify monitoring and sanctions against suspected threats. Bondi sat motionless, her hands clasped tightly, her eyes locked on Chen, but her mind drifted to the events that led her here. 3 months earlier, in a televised address from Washington, D.C., she had stood before a sea of cameras, her Florida prosecutor cadence commanding as she declared, "The American people elected President Trump to restore order after years of chaos. The Patriot Oversight Program targets radical agitators who use social media to incite violence. We will not let digital anarchy undermine our nation." The room had erupted, a reporter shouting, "General Bondi, what about journalists and activists being targeted?" Her response was sharp, her eyes flashing. "We focus on clear threats, not innocent citizens. Any errors will be addressed, but security comes first." Now, in Chen's courtroom, those words haunted her as Callahan struggled to defend a program that had ensnared journalists, activists, and ordinary Americans. Chen interrupted, removing his glasses, his voice sharp with incredulity. "Ms. Callahan, you're asking this court to endorse a program that freezes assets and bans accounts based on vague algorithms and classified threat assessments I cannot review. You claim this protects national security, but it tramples the First and Fourth Amendments." Then, to the shock of everyone present, Chen let out a short, incredulous laugh, a dismissive chuckle that echoed through the silent courtroom. The notion that this court would sanction such a laughably Orwellian scheme is absurd enough to be comical. The laughter landed like a thunderbolt, stunning the room. Journalists exchanged glances, pens frozen above notebooks. Carlos Mendez, a 35-year-old Washington Post reporter with a nose for political scandals, leaned toward a colleague whispering, "Chen just laughed at Bondi's defense. This is seismic." Bondi's face flushed, a rare crack in her composed facade, her fingers tightening around her pen, as Chen continued, his tone now stern. "The plaintiffs allege that your program has silenced protected speech and seized property without due process. Ms. Khan, you've requested witness testimony. You may proceed." Nadia Khan rose, her voice resonant as she introduced Lila Harper, a 32-year-old journalist and ex-influencer with 2 million followers, targeted by the program for her critical posts about the Trump administration. A large screen descended, and Lila's face appeared, her eyes weary but her voice steady with defiance. "I'm a journalist born in Chicago," she said, her words trembling with emotion. "I've covered protests, policy, truth. The DOJ froze my bank accounts, banned my X account, called me an extremist. No charges, no hearing. I can't pay my rent, can't speak online. This isn't security, it's censorship." The courtroom fell silent, Lila's testimony a gut punch. Journalists wiped tears, their pens stilled. Nadia Khan's voice softened, but her question cut deep. "Ms. Harper, were you given any chance to challenge these actions?" Lila shook her head, her voice breaking. "No. They took my livelihood, my voice. I asked for evidence. They gave me nothing." Chen's expression hardened, his gaze shifting to Callahan with a scolding intensity that amplified the impact of his earlier laugh. "Ms. Callahan, how does the DOJ justify this? Ms. Harper is a journalist, a U.S. citizen, silenced and sanctioned without a shred of due process. Your program isn't just flawed, it's a systemic assault on constitutional liberties." Callahan faltered, glancing at Bondi, who nodded subtly, her eyes betraying a flicker of unease. Callahan pivoted, citing an affidavit from Dr. Emily Chen, a 47-year-old cybersecurity expert, claiming the program's algorithms targeted verified threats. Chen's eyebrow arched, his voice dripping with disdain. "An affidavit? This court demands evidence, not assertions. Your defense hinges on secret algorithms and redacted reports. We'll recess for 1 hour. Ms. Callahan, I expect concrete answers when we return." The gavel banged, and the room erupted in whispers. Outside, protesters chanted, "Free speech, not surveillance," while a smaller group of Trump supporters waved flags, shouting, "Law and order!" Sarah Michaels, a 42-year-old CNN legal analyst with a knack for distilling complex cases, stood on the courthouse steps, addressing a camera with measured urgency. Judge Chen just laughed at Attorney General Pam Bondi's defense, a rare and stunning rebuke that signals a potential death knell for her Patriot Oversight Program, she said. If he grants the injunction, it could unravel the Trump administration's surveillance agenda. But Bondi's a fighter. She won't go down easily. Carlos Mendez, weaving through the crowd, tweeted, "Chen's laugh just buried Bondi's case. DOJ's on the ropes." Or Chen laughs. Inside a courthouse conference room, Bondi sat with her legal team, Callahan reviewing notes with frenetic energy. "General, Chen's laughter says it all. He thinks our defense is a farce," Callahan warned, her voice tight. "We can push the national security angle, but we need unclassified evidence. Dr. Chen's affidavit won't hold." Bondi's eyes narrowed, her voice low and resolute. "We're not winning by playing Chen's game. He's already decided. We need to change the battlefield." A knock interrupted, and Victor Reyes, a 50-year-old Trump-aligned operative with a slick smile and a reputation for ruthless strategy, entered. "Pam, I've got a play," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "It's bold, maybe risky, but it could make Chen's ruling irrelevant." Bondi opened the folder, her eyes scanning the contents, her expression shifting from surprise to steely determination. "This could work," she said, her voice steady, "but it's a tightrope, Victor. Legally, ethically." Reyes cut in, his tone sharp. "You're the Attorney General. You've got the power. Use it." Callahan's face tightened, her voice urgent. "General, we need to vet this. Chen's courtroom isn't a political stage." Bondi silenced her with a look. "We're not misstepping, Margaret. We're rewriting the rules. Prep the team. I'm speaking when we reconvene." The courtroom reconvened, the air thick with anticipation, every seat filled as spectators leaned forward, sensing a pivotal moment. Judge Chen took the bench, his gaze sweeping the room before settling on Bondi, who sat with a newfound calm that puzzled observers. Nadia Khan whispered to her co-counsel, her instincts flaring at the shift in Bondi's demeanor. Chen spoke, his voice firm and expectant. "Ms. Callahan, I hope you've used the recess productively. Your defense thus far has been frankly laughable, and this court is prepared to rule unless you offer something substantial." Before Callahan could rise, Bondi stood abruptly, her movement swift and deliberate, ignoring Callahan's startled glance. "Your Honor, with respect, I request permission to address the court directly," she said, her voice clear, commanding, carrying the weight of her years as a prosecutor. Gasps rippled through the courtroom, journalists exchanging stunned glances. Carlos Mendes whispered to a colleague, "Bondi's going rogue. This is about to explode." Chen's eyes narrowed, curiosity battling his strict adherence to protocol. After a brief pause, he nodded, his tone cautious but intrigued. "This is highly irregular, General Bondi, but given your earlier defense's shortcomings, I'll allow it. Proceed with caution." Bondi stepped forward, her presence filling the room, her voice steady but infused with a passion honed from years of courtroom battles. "Your Honor, you laughed at our defense today, and perhaps rightly so. I've reflected on that during our recess. This case isn't just about law, it's about trust. Trust in our government to protect its people, trust in our courts to safeguard liberty. I've heard Ms. Harper's story, and I've confronted the mistakes made under my leadership. I won't hide behind legal technicalities. Instead, I'm proposing a solution: the Digital Freedom Restoration Plan. The courtroom fell utterly silent, every eye locked on Bondi, pens frozen above notebooks. She continued, her tone resolute, her words carefully chosen. "First, effective immediately, the DOJ will suspend the Patriot Oversight Program and restore all affected accounts and assets. We've allocated $2 billion from reallocated DOJ budgets to compensate those harmed, with payments starting within 72 hours. Second, I'm launching a $1 billion public-private partnership to develop transparent, court-supervised social media monitoring guidelines, ensuring no repeat of these errors. Third, I take full responsibility for the program's overreach. I will testify before Congress on DOJ reforms to rebuild public trust." Whispers erupted, a low roar of shock and speculation. Chen banged his gavel, his expression a complex mix of skepticism and intrigue, his eyes studying Bondi intently. Bondi pressed on, her voice unwavering, her prosecutor's cadence commanding attention. Finally, "To protect our nation from imminent foreign cyber attacks, I'm invoking a national emergency declaration to temporarily shield certain DOJ algorithms from judicial review. These contain sensitive data that, if exposed, could cripple our digital infrastructure. Your Honor, I'm offering accountability, transparency where possible, and immediate relief, more than any injunction could achieve." The room exploded in chaos, journalists tweeting furiously, spectators gasping. Nadia Khan leapt to her feet, her voice sharp and indignant. "Your Honor, this is a blatant ploy. General Bondi's trying to rebrand surveillance with a payout and a national emergency excuse." Chen raised a hand, silencing the room with a single gesture, his voice calm but laced with authority. "Order," he commanded, his gaze fixed on Bondi. "General Bondi, you've made an extraordinary proposal, but this court requires specifics. How will the compensation fund operate? Who oversees the partnership? And your national emergency declaration, on what legal basis do you withhold algorithms from this court?" Bondi met Chen's gaze, unflinching, her voice steady. "Your Honor, the fund will be independently administered by a bipartisan panel, with payments verified by federal auditors. The partnership will include tech experts and civil liberties advocates reporting to this court. As for the emergency declaration, I rely on the National Emergencies Act, supported by an affidavit from Dr. Emily Chen, detailing cyber risks. I'm prepared to submit a detailed memorandum by end of day." Chen leaned back, processing, his expression unreadable. He called a recess. "This court will reconvene in 3 hours. General Bondi, I expect a written proposal. Ms. Khan, prepare your response. We're not done here." The gavel banged and the room emptied, abuzz with speculation. Outside, Sarah Michaels addressed a camera, her voice urgent. Pam Bondi just dropped a bombshell in Judge Chen's courtroom, responding to his laughter with a $3 billion gambit that could either save her surveillance program or cement her as a symbol of executive overreach. Carlos Mendez filed a story, his headline bold. Bondi's shock move stuns court after Chen's laugh. Protesters clashed on the courthouse steps, signs reading "Stop Big Brother" and "Free Lila," competing with Trump flags and chants of "Protect America." In the courthouse conference room, Bondi huddled with Callahan and Victor Reyes. Callahan was frantic, reviewing Bondi's proposal. "General, the restitution and suspension are feasible, but the emergency declaration is shaky," she warned. "Chen's laughter shows he's not buying our secrecy. He'll fight the algorithm shield." Reyes smirked, his voice smooth. "Let Chen fight. The public sees Pam restoring freedom while guarding the nation. That's the win." Bondi's eyes flickered with doubt, but her resolve hardened. "We're not backing down," she said. "Margaret, get the memorandum ready. Victor, coordinate with our media team. This needs to land right." When the court reconvened, Chen's demeanor was stern, his questions relentless. He grilled Bondi on the fund's governance, the partnership's oversight, and the legal basis for her emergency declaration. Bondi answered with precision, bolstered by Dr. Emily Chen's affidavit, which detailed risks of foreign cyber attacks exploiting DOJ algorithms. Nadia Khan countered fiercely, arguing that Bondi's plan was a rebrand of surveillance under a veneer of reform. "The plaintiffs deserve transparency, not a payout to silence them," she declared. Chen listened intently, his expression unreadable. After a final round of clarifications, he delivered his ruling. "This court finds General Bondi's proposal partially satisfies the aims of justice. Restitution and program suspension address immediate harms," he said. "However, the National Emergency Declaration is overbroad. The DOJ will submit its algorithms for independent audit, ensuring transparency. The injunction is denied, but oversight continues." The courtroom buzzed, journalists racing to file stories. Bondi's face betrayed a flicker of relief, though her eyes remained guarded, calculating. Nadia Khan huddled with her team, her expression a mix of frustration and resolve, knowing the fight for transparency would continue. Lila Harper, watching via video link, wept, her X account restored, but she felt the broader free speech battle was unresolved. Outside, Sarah Michaels analyzed the ruling for CNN. Judge Chen threaded the needle, giving Bondi a partial victory while asserting judicial authority after laughing at her defense. But the surveillance debate is far from over. The aftermath was a digital and political wildfire. The Wall Street Journal's headline screamed, "Bondi rewrites surveillance playbook," while the New York Times opted for, "AG's bold move sparks free speech alarms." Social media split predictably. Trump supporters hailed Bondi as a hero, with one ex-influencer posting, "Pam Bondi turned Chen's laugh into a win for America. Patriot pride." Critics, including Senator Rand Paul, decried the precedent, warning, "This is how surveillance creeps, under the guise of reform." Legal scholars scrambled to dissect Bondi's pivot, with Harvard Law Review announcing a symposium on digital rights in the age of emergencies. Congress scheduled hearings on DOJ oversight, and law firms issued memos analyzing whether Bondi's strategy could be replicated in other high-stakes cases. For the plaintiffs, the outcome was bittersweet. Lila Harper received compensation within days, her bank accounts unfrozen, her X platform restored, but she told Bloomberg, "The money helps, but transparency matters more. We need to know how they targeted us." The $2 billion fund processed claims swiftly, faster than any class action settlement, while the $1 billion partnership launched with tech giants and civil liberties groups, though skeptics feared it was a surveillance rebrand. At the DOJ, Bondi's congressional testimony was scheduled, her public apology trending on X with hashtags like Bondi backs down and digital freedom. The algorithm audit battle continued, with Chen appointing a special master to oversee disclosures, keeping the DOJ on edge. 3 weeks later, Bondi and Chen crossed paths at a constitutional law symposium in San Francisco, their first encounter since the ruling. Witnesses noted an initially tense but ultimately respectful exchange. "They found a kind of mutual understanding," said event chair Patricia Coleman. "Two fierce minds who clashed over liberty and security, but respected the fight." Bondi, her legacy bolstered yet shadowed by controversy, returned to Washington, her resolve unshaken. Chen, ever the practical jurist, maintained silence, though sources close to him suggested he viewed the outcome as imperfect but necessary to protect free speech. The day a federal judge laughed at Pam Bondi in court had sparked a new chapter in the evolving clash between executive power, digital rights, and the soul of American justice. Thank you for watching our in-depth analysis of this explosive legal showdown between Judge Edward Chen and Attorney General Pam Bondi. If you found this breakdown compelling, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more exclusive coverage of high-stakes legal battles. Turn on notifications to catch our upcoming interview with a key DOJ insider involved in crafting Bondi's unprecedented digital freedom restoration plan. Drop a comment below. Does Bondi's strategy safeguard liberty or entrench surveillance? Stay engaged as this story continues to unfold.